It's freezer pop season and it's so exciting until you touch it and it's like instant frostbite. In comes the freezer pop sleeve. In this video, I'm going to show you 3 different ways to make it. Super quick and simple with felt, a fabric sleeve that is washable and will last for years, or a fabric wrap so you can access the bottom to push that popsicle up and access the top for eating. This one is my husband's favorite. So let me show you how to make all 3.
My name is Tara Reed. I am an artist and fabric designer with Riley Blake, and I am back with another fun sewing tutorial for you. Make sure you have hit the subscribe button so you don't miss one. Let's get onto it and have some fun with needle and thread. The first and easiest way to make a freezer pop holder is with felt. You just need 1 piece of felt for every 2 holders that you want to make. Cut it into a 6" by 4.5" piece, fold it in half, and sew there to there. And then you have these cute little felt holders. You could add names if you have a Cricut machine. These are great if you want to just make a bunch of them for a party. They're not going to last as long. You might be able to wash them once or twice, but felt's just not going to last quite as long as a fabric holder. But great for large crowds, church picnic, party, whatever. Minimal sewing to do on those. Now let's talk about some ways to make them with fabric. I'm going to make these for a 4th of July party, so I have already cut 2 of my July stars from Riley Blake Designs into 5 3/4" wide strips. Here are a few examples. You can just do super simple fabric. I did do a different color on the inside of each of these. This one I used some scraps, so it's different on the outside, just a simple red stars on the inside. And then I also played with the batting. Now, what I like about these is these are going to be made to last. So you can use them all summer, you can use them year after year, you can throw them in the laundry because there's no felt, there's no batting exposed, everything is enclosed within these fabrics. And you can use scraps. So I did do 2 long strips, but if you have just some different scraps of fabric, you can use that. You can also play with what you put inside for insulation. If you've ever made pot holders and have some scraps of this Insular Bright from Pellon left over, you can use that. That's going to give the fingers the best insulation from the cold of any of the battings, obviously, because that is what it is designed to do with this silver part. You can tell here it's a little bit thicker than this is just a regular batting. So you could use fusible fleece. You can also, I just have some of these strips left over from doing placemats, and waste not, want not, I save them, and now I can use them to whip up some of these freezer pop holders. The way you do it is the same. It just depends what you have around and what you want to use. So let me show you how to make these. So the width is 5 3/4, and that is going to be folded over to make the holder. The height is going to be 6 inches, so we're going to cut these 6.5 inches high. And this ruler just happens to be 6.5 inches, which is awesome. So I'm just going to line this up on the edge. Thank you, Riley Blake, Lori Holt, and your cute Guts ruler. And you're going to need 2 fabrics, one for the outside and one for the inside. And we're just going to keep it simple. It's just going to be an individual fabric on each layer. If you want to get fancier, you're basically going to put fabrics together, or you could add ribbon, anything you want, but make sure that this outside is 6.5 by 5 3/4, and then you have that same size for the lining. Now, let me show you how I just super quickly use this little scrap. I just lay my fabric right on top of it, and I didn't even cut this. This is exactly how wide it was. That was just serendipity that it's the perfect width. And then you're going to do the 2 fabrics right sides together with the batting. Now we're going to take this little sandwich of 3 items over to the sewing machine, and we're going to sew one of the shorter edges, which measure, if you're not seeing it because it's not very different, one of the 5 3/4" edges with a 1/4" seam. We're going to sew across that. Our next step is to press this open, and I usually just press away from whichever side doesn't have the fleece. So I'm just going to open it like that, give that a quick press. Now I'm going to grab some clips. I'm going to fold it in half, matching this seam, matching all of the edges. This side is going to be the outside, this is going to be the lining. So we're going to sew and leave this end open. When you go to sew this, make sure this fabric here is not folded down like that. You want to make sure that is up inside that fleece before you get started. Now we're going to sew these two sides with a 1/4 inch seam. Now we're going to clip this corner. Don't hit your stitching. And then a teeny bit off of this corner, not as far down because it is folded. So if you cut too far down, you're going to create a hole in the bottom. And then you're just going to turn this right side out. I've turned this right side out, but still have a little bit of work to do on the corners. Next step is to make sure this is spread out at the seam. And we're going to press this. Next, you're going to take the raw edge of the lining and you're going to fold that under, just 1/4 to 1/2 inch. The main thing is just to make sure it's even. And then you're going to press that edge. Now I'm going to take it back to the sewing machine. I'm just going to stitch straight across there. I think you know how that'll work, so I don't actually need to show you that piece. Final step is just to get this lining, the blue part, inside the red part. You're just going to get that in there with your fingers as well as you can. Now I'm going to use a combination of a ruler and my turner. You want to kind of hold it up here where that seam is because you don't want it to go, see, that's turned in too far. You want that seam between the blue and the red to be right around the top. So you want to hold that while simultaneously shoving the lining in. That's a technical term. And then I just like to press that one more time to get those seams a little bit crisper, get that top edge crisper. Because you know kids care about that, right? But moms do. That's it. It's ready to go. So now we have a whole bunch and we can have quite the 4th of July or summer party. Third way to make these, and my husband's preferred method, is to not make a pocket, but to make a piece that will Velcro around the freezer pop so that you have access to the bottom so you can push on that to push the freezer pop up. He feels this is the best method. So we're going to take these same fabrics. I'm just going to layer them and cut them at the same time. These are 5 3/4 inches. We are going to cut them 3 1/2 inches. Then I'm going to grab my extra batting. I'm just going to lay that on there. And one thing I love about little projects like this is it doesn't have to be super precise. If your fabric is a little bit narrower, it's totally fine. It's not like doing a quilt block where everything has to be super, super precise. Now we're going to layer that together. And then you're also going to need an 1.5 inch long piece of hook and loop. Now we're going to take this to the sewing machine. It's the two fabrics, right sides together, and the batting. And we are going to sew 3 of the sides, leaving one of the short ends open. Now we're going to clip the corners, but make sure you don't clip your stitching. And then we're going to turn that right side out. I like to get it as turned as possible with my fingers before grabbing a turning tool, in that case, the little Riley Blake bird, to very gently press those corners out. And again, very gently, because if you get overzealous, you might pop right through your fabric, which would be a big bummer. Now we are going to press this little one so it's nice and flat. Now we're going to turn this under 1/4 to 1/2 inch, whatever you can quickly and easily do, and keep it pretty even. And we're going to press that as well. So you have 2 choices. The fastest way to do this is to simply stitch across there and then add the Velcro, call it done. Or if you want a more finished look, you can stitch all the way evenly around the outside. But we're going to go with fast because, I mean, this is for popsicles for kids, right? Now, one thing that is cool about doing the freezer pop wrap where the bottom is open is that it's going to be 2-sided. You can have the blue showing, or you can have the red showing, just depending on which way you wrap and use the Velcro. So what you're going to do is you're going to take 1/2, these are an 1.5 inch long. You're going to take 1/2 of this Velcro and you're going to put it in the center of one side. Does not matter which side. And now we're going to sew that on. Now we're going to turn it over. Now, if you didn't want that stitching to show, you would just change your bobbin to match the fabric, but I'm just into mass production and doing this quickly. Now you're going to take the other half of the hook and loop, opposite side of the fabric, but have it lined up. See how those are lined up? They're both in the center. Now we're going to sew this one on. And again, if I didn't want the stitching to show much on the other, I would change the bobbin thread to navy. So now this one is done, and all you do is you wrap it around your freezer pop and hook the Velcro wherever it needs to be to hold that nice and stiff. So now you have protection for your fingers in the center, but you can still squeeze at the bottom and eat from the top.